Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. And as always, guys, I am Jeremiah, and we're back again with another episode for you guys today. It is the 199th edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, and we're here recording on a kind of a gloomy Monday morning here in Northern California. It is March 20th. And I wasn't here on Friday, so, we had a lot that happened Friday morning with Jason Pierre-Paul signing a new deal with the New York Giants. Marshawn Lynch, Oakland Raiders, a possibility. I will get more into that a little bit later. But as of today, I have to talk about a couple of stuff that have occurred over the weekend, and especially this morning, there was a story, or I should say a report, that Tom Brady's stolen jersey from this year's Super Bowl has been recovered after it was found in the possession of an unidentified member of the international media. And this was a really long investigation. I think it's still kind of ongoing. But remember when the New England Patriots completed that 28-point comeback against the Atlanta Falcons, Tom Brady, his jersey was stolen from the locker room, his playing jersey, and now it has been found. The NFL announced earlier today that the Patriots Super Bowl 51 jersey and his Super Bowl 49 jersey as well were retrieved after investigation that was led by the FBI. So the FBI got involved with this investigation, and the jerseys were found in Mexico and are right now with authorities, and that was according to Houston Police Chief Art Avencietto. And Avencietto tweeted about the recovery of the jerseys. He said that, the proud Houston Police Major Offenders Division traced Brady's jersey to Mexico, and it has been recovered with the help of the FBI and Mexican authorities. The Major Offenders Division sounds like Law and Order show. Major Offenders Division. All right. Well, anyways, so it looks like Tom Brady's jersey has been found. And, I'm happy that it finally happened. I was losing sleep over this, as everyone else was. But to be serious, though, it was kind of a serious thing for Tom Brady. It is his jersey. But honestly, though, I'm kind of glad we don't have to hear about Tom Brady's jersey. And I just wanted to let you guys know that it has been found. And, the Houston police did have a $500,000 value to the jersey. And, we'll see where this investigation continues to see if the member of the international media, if anything happens to that person. But it's kind of crazy to me that, the international media person took this. And it's really crazy. We got guys that can't even get a press credential for lots of games. But what do I know? But, that is the update on Tom Brady's missing jersey. It wasn't Lady Gaga. It wasn't Julian Edelman. It wasn't it wasn't anybody on that big board that Brady had a couple of weeks ago. Because, if you guys seen it, he had the big old whiteboard with the missing jersey suspects. So, it has been found. It was found in Mexico. It was stolen by an unidentified international media member. And we'll see what happens with that media person in the near future. Or I should say in the near future. I can't even talk today. Well, that's the update on Tom Brady's jersey. But I think the biggest story that we have come about the past few days is we could possibly see the return of Marshawn Lynch in the NFL. And I think he's only willing to do that with the Oakland Raiders. And, I remember his final year in Seattle in 2015 when he missed 9 games. He was battling nagging injuries. I felt that he just didn't like playing for the Seahawks anymore. And maybe it's because Super Bowl 49, when the Seahawks were on the 1-yard line, all they needed was a touchdown to win the game, and they couldn't score. I think Marshawn Lynch took that personal that they didn't allow him to have the chance to win that game. But now it seems like, according to Peter King of the Monday Morning Quarterback, that Marshawn Lynch really wants to play for the Raiders. And, he wants to do things for his foundation in that area. And it'll be also a chance to play for his hometown team and do things for the community in Oakland if he hasn't already. And I actually do like this for Marshawn Lynch and Oakland Raiders, but only for the right price. I only like it for the right price because, if Marshawn were to unretire, I think he still has 2 years on his contract. I think he would have 2 years on his contract left. And, he would either have to be released by the Seahawks or either have to be traded. So, I think his contract he's slated to make at least $9 to $10 million a year on the remaining contract, the remaining years on his contract. I do think there was some way that if Marshawn Lynch were to unretire and he would either be traded or released and signed with the Raiders, they're probably going to restructure his deal a little bit. I do think Marshawn Lynch can be a really good, temporarily placeholder running back for the Raiders right now. They have a great offensive line, really great young quarterback, a really great receiving core. They just added Jared Cook, another weapon in Derek Carr's arsenal. I think Marshawn he can realistically help this team. And when you're on the 1-yard line or in goal line possession, and you have Marshawn Lynch in your backfield, and you have the receiver weapons that you have, if I'm Derek Carr, and if I'm in the red zone, I got targets like Jared Cook, Michael Crabtree, and Amari Cooper. I can throw them to the red zone. I can probably just hand out to Marshawn Lynch. He can finish the job. So imagine how dangerous this Oakland Raiders team can be with Marshawn added to this backfield. And another reason why I like Marshawn to the Raiders is because of the depth of Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington. I think these are really good complementary backs for the Raiders. And with the interest of the Raiders trying to acquire Marshawn Lynch since last season, it kind of has to tell you their value on Adrian Peterson a little bit. Because, Adrian Peterson really, I think he wants to get paid like he's a starter. I think he wants to get paid like around $10 million a year, but I think AP has to realize he's just a role player at this point of his career. And I do think Marshawn Lynch is going to be a role player for the Raiders if he happens to go there. And it looks like realistically it can happen before the draft even occurs. So I think for the right price, I think we can see Marshawn to the Raiders. And it looks like Adrian Peterson, I think he's asking for a little too much money. And the Raiders, they look like they haven't been interested in Peterson after Peterson did show interest in the Raiders. So there's no mutual interest there. And I think it can really happen. So, for all this to occur, Lynch will either have to be released or traded by the Seattle Seahawks. But honestly, with them signing Eddie Lacy, with the development of CJ Prosise and Thomas Ross, I don't really see the Seahawks, honestly. I don't see them keeping Lynch because that'd just be ridiculous. And I think if Lynch does go to Oakland, I think we will have a chance to see a productive player. But I do think the Raiders will have to keep him fresh because remember, in his final year that he played in 2015, he only played in 7 games. He only averaged 3.8 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, 417 yards. That wasn't a good year for beast mode there. So that year was coming off of 4 straight years of 10-plus touchdowns and 1,000 yards plus rushing seasons. So if Marshawn Lynch becomes the running back for the Raiders, I do think that he can be productive, but I think people might have to hold their expectations back a little bit. I don't think he's going to have a 1,000-yard season. I don't know if he could probably have more than 10 touchdowns, but I don't know if he can have a Pro Bowl season. But I do think he can add another element to this team, and you know what? He kind of fits the Raiders. He kind of fits the Raiders' brand right now. He's the type of player that kind of fits the Raiders' history a little bit. Though his running style really fits this offense well right now. But honestly, I would love to see this happen. I really would love to see Marshawn Lynch back in the NFL. But, if Lynch doesn't make a comeback, I don't think he will go away anytime soon. I do think he can. I actually think he can go on TV and go on the Travel Channel. I think Travel Channel needs to give this man his own show because we all saw the video with him in Scotland. That was hilarious. But I would love to see Marshawn Lynch back in the NFL. I think he'll be good for the Oakland Raiders franchise. And you never know. He can probably be that missing piece for a possible Super Bowl run. I do think this can be one of the teams that could compete against the Patriots this year. And the Patriots got a whole lot better. I do think this is one of the teams that can compete against them. All right, well, I'm going to take my first break, and when I get back, I'm going to discuss the market for Adrian Peterson, Jay Cutler, and Colin Kaepernick, and why the market is so cold for those 3 gentlemen. I will discuss those guys when I get back to the Going to Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. And one of my favorite stories of the past week. It didn't get covered a whole lot in mainstream media, and I think it was because of the player involved in this news. But Colin Kaepernick, he is a free agent. He opted out of his contract with the San Francisco 49ers earlier this month. But, he got involved with the Turkish Airlines Help Somalia movement, which, has led to food, water, and aid being sent to the country. And, he's been highly involved in doing a lot of good in the community. He chimed in on his Instagram expressing his concern and willingness to help. And the one thing when I saw from Colin Kaepernick doing this Instagram post was that, one of the main things that teams have been shy away from signing Kaepernick is probably his character and, him being a good teammate. But with him doing all this stuff, for third world countries, even giving his shoes to the homeless last fall, I don't know. I don't understand how that is a character concern. I really don't. And, I've been a Colin Kaepernick supporter on the field when he was with the Niners. I'm not trying to get too much into his politics here with, his national anthem stance. I don't want to get too much involved into that. But from a football standpoint, I don't really see the character issues with Kaepernick. Maybe if this was 2 years ago when he was dressing like a DJ at a press conference after throwing 4 picks, maybe I can question his character a little bit. But it looks like he finally got his act together, and he looked like a more mature person. And despite what you think about his beliefs and all that, the fact that he's getting involved with something like Turkish Airlines Help Somalia, that movement that sends, water, food, aid to the country, that honestly, I just don't see the character concern at all. When you're willing to help out, people in need, I think it speaks really highly of the type of person that you are. And, he's currently on the market right now. The market has been really cold. We saw guys like E.J. Manuel signing a contract with the Raiders to be a backup quarterback. We saw Geno Smith possibly signing with the New York Giants. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks that have taken little deals to be backup quarterbacks or add depth to the team. Colin Kaepernick, I kind of think with the way that he played last year, I actually didn't think he played that bad. When you look at his stats from last season, Kaepernick had 16 touchdowns. He only threw 4 picks, the best touchdown to interception ratio of his career. He did only play in 12 games. And you don't get me wrong, he wasn't the best player like we ever seen. I'm just saying, I think if, he had a little more talent around him, I think he would have been really good. But the thing that really, really kind of bothers me a little bit is that, Kaepernick may not even sign with the team. There's just teams that are not interested in him. And that kind of shocks me because, you got teams like the Browns. You got teams like the Jets. Who do they have at quarterback? Who do those teams have at quarterback? The Jets can go with Christian Hackenberg? Are the Browns going to go with Cody Kessler? Do you think, those are going to be the guys that are going to lead your guys' teams? I just don't get how we can have players that commit domestic violence, sexual assault, and they still get 5 or 6 second chances. And Colin Kaepernick can't even get one more chance. We got guys like Aldon Smith, being dumb for the past year. Him not wanting to talk to the media, but he still signed with the Raiders. He's still on the Raiders roster. We saw him get 5 or 6 chances, and he hasn't been cut yet. I just don't get the whole thing with Kaepernick, not being on a team with so much character concern. And we got Joe Mixon, who's probably going to be a second round draft pick. He's going to be a high draft pick. And we all saw the video of what he did 3 years ago. He's going to go on the team. We saw the photos of Greg Hardy, his girlfriend at the time. We saw those photos. We saw those bruises. He went to the Cowboys. Or at least he was still on the Cowboys when those photos linked out. But we have guys that get those chances. But yet, Colin Kaepernick, all he does is help out the community. He does so much for the community, and yet, he can't sign with the team, not even for a backup position. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Kaepernick deserves to be a starter. I'm not saying he's going to turn a franchise around. No, I think he's talented enough to be a Super Bowl backup. I think he'd be a good backup for Seattle. I think he'd be a good backup maybe for Pittsburgh if Big Ben decides to not come back. He can back up Landry Jones. I think he can be the starter for the Jets. I think he can be the starter for the Browns. There's a market out there. I just don't think, with him being so polarizing, there's no way. I can understand why, but, when you have players that have done so much more, so much worse than what Kaepernick has done, and they're on teams, it kind of rubs people the wrong way a little bit. But honestly, I will honestly be surprised if Kaepernick is not on the team before training camp or even before preseason. I think some teams are going to look at him. Injuries happen a lot. I think he will get a chance, but it just remains what team will give him a chance. I don't see him going back to the Niners because, they did get Brian Hoyer. Right now he's set to be their starter. The Browns, they really don't have a starter there. The Jets, they don't have a starter, but honestly, you got to give him one more chance at least to be a backup. This is a quarterback that has 4 playoff wins, a Super Bowl appearance. We saw the peak of what he can be. And Jay Cutler's getting more interest in this guy. Jay Cutler's only won, he's been to the NFC Championship once. And I know Colin Kaepernick's been 3-18 the past 2 years, but you don't think he can be a suitable backup or a placeholder quarterback for a franchise looking for a long-term answer? I think he fits the Browns perfect. Even though Ohio is a red state, I think Cleveland could be a real good destination for him. I don't see him going to the Jets because of the owner, Woody Johnson. He is a huge GOP supporter. And a lot of conservatives' views don't really align with Colin Kaepernick's views. Colin Kaepernick is a conservative nightmare. He is a nightmare for conservatives out there. And so I don't think he will fit the Jets organization because of Woody Johnson. But I do see a team taking the chance on him. He is still fairly kind of young. He is 29. But I'll just, honestly, if he is not playing football, I wouldn't be surprised. But you know what, though? Even if his football career doesn't last long, and let's just say he doesn't play again, I do think he has a future as an activist, and I think he can do really well in that field. All right, well, that's enough about me talking about Colin Kaepernick. And when I get back, I'm actually going to discuss Adrian Peterson and Jay Cutler. I did say I was going to talk about those guys, and don't forget I am going to talk about those guys when I get back to Going to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Well, the other two biggest free agents right now in the NFL are Adrian Peterson and Jay Cutler. I'm not surprised that both of those guys are unsigned. They are pretty much older. Adrian Peterson, I can understand he is 30. He's about to be 32. He is a running back, and that 32 is practically 90 years old in running back years. Jay Cutler, on the other hand, he is 33. He looks like he can still play a little bit, but he just wasn't productive in the last couple years with the Bears. He just wasn't consistent enough. He didn't bring that team over the hump in the 8 years that he's been there. He took them to one NFC championship, and that was it. That was it. And, he actually even left that game with a knee injury too. And Cutler went through 6 offensive coordinators in Chicago. So maybe that kind of played into his inconsistency. But come on, you can't throw that excuse out there. He had talent around him. He had guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. He had Martellus Bennett. He had Matt Forte in his prime. He had all those guys on the field with him. And yet, he couldn't do a whole lot with that team. But I still think Jay Cutler, I think he is capable of being a starter. But will teams want to sign him as a starter? The Jets, they did. They were interested in bringing him for a visit. The Texans said they were not interested in him. The Bears haven't said anything, one word about Cutler. So, for Jay Cutler, I think the best fit for Cutler right now will probably be the New York Jets. And it's kind of fitting for both of those guys because Jay Cutler is the definition of a Jets player right now. That would be such a Jets move. But, they need a starter. I think Jay Cutler needs a change of scenery. And he does. It's not like he doesn't have a lack of talent there in New York. Eric Decker is coming off an injury. Quincy Enunwa, I think, can be a really good receiver. Robbie Anderson emerged late in the year. You got Matt Forte. He can still play. They have that time together in Chicago. And, Bilal Powell, I think, is going to be a really good running back for the Jets this year if he's given the right fit and scheme for him to run. But I can see the Jets signing Jay Cutler. I think it could happen. They're not going to win many games, but I think they can happen. As for Adrian Peterson, I kind of mentioned him a little bit when I was talking about Marshawn Lynch, first segment of the show. And, AP, I just don't think he sees himself as a role player. That's probably why he is still left on the market. I'm actually surprised Eddie Lacy was the first running back signed because, his weight issues and all that. But, Adrian Peterson, I did say that the Raiders were a perfect fit for him if he wanted to be a starter. But, the Raiders haven't shown any interest in him, and they rather have Marshawn Lynch, who's been out of football for a year, than AP. The Vikings, I don't think he can come back. Latavius Murray is the running back there now. So, I think no return of AP. I don't think it's possible. And when I look at the other teams that could use AP, Green Bay could be a destination, but I don't think Green Bay's been interested in him. I can see the Detroit Lions, but they haven't shown interest. I just don't think teams value Adrian Peterson like a starter. I don't think they value him anymore. And I do think that kind of plays into the fact that running backs are not really they're not really valued among NFL teams anymore. Teams don't value the running back position like they used to. Like, they value the quarterback position a lot more than the running back position. I'll give you an example. Like the Bears signed Mike Glennon to a $15 million guaranteed contract, and he hasn't started in like 4 years. And he's a starter in Chicago. Adrian Peterson, he had a 2,000-yard season. after his ACL injury. And 2 years ago, he rushed for over 1,500 yards. Or I should say close to 1,500. So, the running back position is just not as valuable as it used to be. Just look at Eddie Lacy's deal. It went for $3 million guaranteed for a year. Maybe that's played into the fact of his conditioning and weight issues, but still, that's the type of deal I think teams want to sign Adrian Peterson for. But, AP might be overvaluing himself a little bit. But I will be surprised if Adrian Peterson and Jay Cutler are not on NFL squads in 2017. They will be on squads. It's just that I didn't expect the market to be this cold for them. Well, we'll see where these guys end up. And, we're literally in the second week of free agency. So we'll see how the interest is for these two gentlemen here. And I got a couple of stories to end for you guys. Unfortunately, very unfortunate one, actually, I might add. Last night, 49ers legend and who's mostly known for, the catch that helped the 49ers win the NFC Championship against the Cowboys in 1981. One of the most legendary plays in NFL history. Well, Dwight Clark did announce that he has been diagnosed with ALS, or it's otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And, he did write a letter on Eddie DeBartolo's official website. And he revealed, he first started feeling weakness in his hand in September of 2015. And, he underwent months of tests and treatments and added that there is no test that will positively diagnose you with ALS. You have to eliminate the possibility of all other diseases and disorders. So, it's very unfortunate that this disease had to, has went to a legend. And I'm not saying that, just because he's a football legend in one of the most historic franchises, that's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for anyone to get this disease. And, I just got to say, my prayers are with him. And I wish everything for the best for Dwight Clark out there, but that's very unfortunate news that we heard, from last night. And, he's one of the all-time 49er greats. He has his 87 retired, and, he's part of the most historic plays in football history. This is very unfortunate for Dwight Clark, and honestly, I pray for him, But, and I kind of want to end the show on a kind of a lighter story, on a feel-good story. I don't want to end the show on a kind of like a downer. I wanted to talk about the team on the other side of the bay, which is the Raiders. And I did discuss them earlier in the show, but I kind of want to talk about the quarterback. And, the quarterback, he is known to be very religious and a Christian. And there was a man stranded on the roadside in the Bay Area, and he got help from, he didn't even know he was getting help from Raiders quarterback. He didn't know. Derek Carr noticed someone who ran out of gas on the side of a road in Dublin, California, which is in northern part of the state. And it was a music producer named Ron Resser. He's a Bay Area music producer. He hopped in the car with Derek Carr. He drove to the nearest station, and I guess the two were talking, and, Resser asked what Derek Carr did for a living, and he's all like, he said he played football. He said he was a quarterback, and then Resser told the Fresno Bee that, I thought he was a college quarterback. I asked him what string he was. He said first string. I asked him his favorite team. He said, I may be biased, but the Raiders, because I played for them. I look at him and say, wait. I asked him his name. He said Derek Carr? So he didn't know it was Derek Carr at the time, but I like this story because, Derek Carr, he helped just a random individual on the side of the road. He helped him out. He fixed the problem. Well, not I would say fixed, but he helped him resolve his Carr problem. And this is why Derek Carr is one of my favorite players in the league. You know, I've been a Derek Carr fan since his Fresno State days, and I knew he was what the type of person he was. But man, I just feel like this story is one of my favorite stories. We don't see this type of things a lot with professional athletes. I just think, you know, this is something that I had to tell you guys that before I end today's show. You know, Derek Carr, he is a great player, but we also know that he's a great person as well. Probably one of the best character guys in the league. And this is something, I like seeing a story like this. I really do. You know, it makes me happy, gives me hope for humanity. And I have to leave you guys on that story. But, you know, I'm going to have to conclude this show. I will be back tomorrow for the 200th episode. That's right, guys. It is the 200th episode of the GSMC Football Podcast. And I will discuss anything that happens over the next 24 hours. But as always, I'm Jeremiah. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. And you guys come back tomorrow for the 200th episode, guys.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.